On Overdrive this week, we've got a heavyweight bout between two colossal brutes. Auto Selector with Bert and all the happenings from the automotive world this week. And we put a myth regarding motorsports and fitness to rest. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. Supercars are no longer a rare sight on Indian roads. We could perhaps see a lot more of them if we had roads that people could drive them on. Enthusiastic spenders are plenty, but roads is a problem. So we now have a new breed of supercars that can deal with this problem. Jamshed plays referee to a matchup of two such beauties. Take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an Overdrive Heavyweight Championship bout. This is your main event. In the maroon corner, weighing in at an even 2.4 tons, shelling out a brow-beating 525 PS of max power from the Mercedes stable, the ML63 AMG. In the white corner, weighing in at about 2.1 tons, putting out an equally impressive 500 PS of max power, a brother from another German mother, the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Now we have a hell of a battle on our hands. Care to ring the bell? Until recent times, when someone spoke of 500 horsepower and a 0 to 100 time of less than 5 seconds, you're immediately thinking sports car. The brawn of an SUV, on the other hand, was associated with earth-moving torque forced on the bottom end, which would help it quite literally climb mountains. And that's where these two are a bit different. The Mercedes ML63 AMG and the Porsche Cayenne Turbo look like your normal luxury SUV brutes, but they hide a very powerful secret under the hood, and when unleashed, they'll make supper of your average supercar. Upon first glance, the ML63 AMG and the Cayenne Turbo don't look like quintessential rivals, the Merc being an outright heavyweight in proportions, while the Porsche looks like a sports car on a high-protein diet and a gym schedule. And this difference carries forward in the way they move too. One throws harder blows, while the other moves more swiftly. Reminds me of one of those Rocky Balboa movies. The interiors of the Porsche are a little bit more sporty, whereas the AMG is a little bit more stately. Now, I think the kind of people who are buying these power-packed iterations of these cars are the same kind of people who probably appreciate the zesty interiors of the Porsche a little bit more. But that having been said, while this dashboard may look really beautiful, I think it's a little bit more busy, whereas the ML63 gives you a more sense of space. The other thing I like about the ML63 AMG's interiors is the steering and the seats, which feel great. Powering the ML63 is the familiar 5.5-litre AMG twin-turbo V8, which is now becoming increasingly common on big-capacity AMG cars. Now on the GL63 AMG, the same engine makes about 557 PS of max power, but on this, the ML, it's down-tuned to make a more usable 525 PS of max power. It's made it to a 7-speed Tiptronic automatic gearbox with a torque converter, which is the same gearbox as on the SLK55 AMG. Now when we drove that car, it kind of bothered us just a little bit because of its lazy upshifts. But on this, it's different, and that's because we drive this car a little differently. Just put it in auto mode and enjoy the surf of torque. This powerful iteration of the Cayenne Turbo gets a 4.8-litre single-turbo V8 that shells out a comparatively modest 500 PS of max power and an identical 700 Nm of max torque. Now it will match the ML63 in terms of performance. 0 to 100 takes an identical 4.7 seconds. Now, what compensates for this marginal lack in power is the fact that the Cayenne Turbo weighs about 300 kilograms lesser than the ML63 AMG. The ML63 AMG is quicker off the line thanks to more power, but once you're past 40 km/h, the lighter Cayenne Turbo is able to catch up with it. The excess weight further ails the ML as the Cayenne's lightness enables it to stop much faster and at a much shorter distance as well. The Porsche's advantage doesn't end then. A lower center of gravity and a more road-committed suspension setup helps it corner in a more confident manner. The ML63 AMG won't be left too far behind, but its electronics will make sure you're safer than a Porsche, while the Cayenne Turbo will give you as much control as you want or can handle.
It's almost as if Porsche built the Cayenne and then forgot to inform it that while it is a Porsche, it is not a sports car. Well, everything about this car almost is imitating a sports car, which also means that the ride quality is a little on the stiffer side. And the steering, while it has a lot of feedback, but it also requires a little bit of an effort almost all the time, which means this setup might just work brilliantly on a racetrack, but when you're doing it every single day, it can get a little cumbersome.
Both cars have a fantastic suspension system, but the ML's adaptive AMG suspension does feel slightly more pliant overall. It is able to glide over everything you throw at it whilst also controlling body roll to a minimum. The Porsche benefits from a slightly lower center of gravity, but both cars get ride height adjust to lower or raise the suspension as per the requirement. But if this were a music contest, it would be one battle the AMG would win, hands down.
The secret lies in a sneaky little party trick. Now, a little bit of unburned fuel is introduced to a very hot exhaust system, and the result is a percussion orchestra of loud bangs and crackles. Now, you have to hand it to AMG when it comes to the sound of their cars. Now, if I could only remove these tailpipes, put them on my bedstand and get them to put me to sleep every night.
So you want supercar-like performance, the practicality of luxurious and spacious 5-seaters, and the ability to tread anywhere you wished. Well, this new breed of mega SUVs could just be the solution for you and for India in general. And these two fine specimens have traded blow for blow right down to the final round. It's time now to go to the judges' scorecards.
Well, the judges have reached their verdict. I have with me Halley, who's our resident road test editor. Halley, how would you score these cars?
Well, Jamshed, I would personally give the Cayenne Turbo a 9 and the ML63 will get an 8.
Well, that puts us in a bit of a spot because I would personally give the ML63 a 9 and the Cayenne Turbo an 8. Well, that means we have a split decision, but I'll tell you what, I'll let you be the third judge. Now, if you want practicality, more interior space, if more power is your thing but you don't want to shout out about it, then the ML63 AMG is the car for you. But if you want a sports car that's disguised as an SUV, if you want to hit the corners hard and you want to tell the world that you're driving a Porsche, then the Cayenne Turbo is the car for you. Well, in either case, you'd have to be fairly crazy to buy any one of these cars, and well, you'd have to have really deep pockets as well.
At $1.5 crore, the ML63 AMG and the Cayenne Turbo are indulgences only very few can afford, but at least you can enjoy their power even on our roads. We are now looking forward to the M version of the BMW X5 and the SUVs from the Jeep stable. But on that note, it is time for us to take a break. When we return, we answer your queries on Auto Selector. Bert will join us as always, so stay right there. You're watching Overdrive. Welcome back. You're watching Overdrive, and it's time now for us to take your queries on Auto Selector. Bert joins us as always. Hi Bert. Our first question comes in to us from Ravi Raj Pardeshi. He writes in saying he's planning to buy a diesel hatchback and has shortlisted the Fiat Punto Emotion and the Maruti Swift ZDI. His priorities are solid build, good ground clearance and durability. The cost of ownership and sales service is a priority. He wants the Fiat Punto for its overall styling and thick tires, but off the short list, what would you suggest?
The Fiat Punto is a nice car, and on all those requirements that you listed out, it fits the bill. It's a sturdy car, it's stable, it's got good reliability as well. The only problem going for Fiat in the past was that its service network was very poor. So if you had an issue with it, it would take a fairly large amount of time for you to get it rectified, and that was its only only failing, to be honest. Having said that though, Maruti Swift, that is the most popular choice in the country. There's no denying why it is popular. It's a great car, good performance, decent amount of space, decent styling as well, great styling. But I think it's Maruti service network that of course helped a lot of consumers make, or rather veer towards that car. Having said that though, the Fiat, there is a new version of the Punto coming out in the market very soon. We will have a lot of updates for you on that car as soon as we've driven it.
Well, it's now on to our next question, and this one comes into us from Yash Patel from Gujarat. He wants to buy himself a luxury SUV. He's shortlisted the Land Rover Evoque, the Mercedes-Benz ML350 and the BMW X5. His priorities are stability, luxury clearly, and good looks. What are the best options, Bert? And also, he wants to know whether he should wait for the Porsche Macan.
The SUVs that you listed out now, they all belong to different segments, they all fit different purposes, they all priced very differently. So it's a very diverse selection of cars that you're looking at. Now, the smallest in these lot is going to be the Macan and the Evoque. Now, both of these go against each other. Both very stylish SUVs, both performance oriented. Though, to be honest, the Macan, of course, is more of a sports car rather than an SUV. Not to say that it isn't capable of off-road. Same with the Evoque as well. You get options that are more performance oriented than being, you know, fantastic, or rather they are good off-road as well. But it's too early. We haven't driven the Macan in Indian conditions as of yet, so it's too early to say what that SUV is like exactly. I'd put those choices aside for the moment and focus a little more on the ML and the X5, which globally, well, these two cars position themselves against each other.
Well, good luck to both of you, and thank you very much for writing into us here at Overdrive. If you have questions, we have the answers. Our email address is helpdesk@overdrive.co.in. You can also stay in touch with us on Facebook and Twitter. It is now time for us to wrap up all the news from the world of auto, and there's good news for everyone.
Ford India launched the new 2014 Fiesta at a starting price of Rs 7.69 lakhs ex-showroom New Delhi, managing to substantially undercut the prices of segment stalwarts, the Hyundai Verna and the Honda City. The new Fiesta boasts of a new design language called Kinetic 2.0, refreshed interiors and additional features. Bookings and deliveries are to start immediately.
This week on Driven by Bridgestone, David Hudson, head of NVH at Tata Motors European Technical Centre, shares Tata Motors' ideology of safety in electric vehicles.
I mean, certainly safety is different for electric vehicles than it is for conventional vehicles. There are new risks which aren't typically there. We have high voltage batteries, for example, and typically those batteries are running at 300 or 400 volts. In order to ensure safety, we have to isolate those batteries very well from the vehicle chassis. And that's done by a series of interlocks and connectors which check themselves to make sure there are no faults before it allows the vehicle to power up. The other part of the safety case is of course based on the fact that in a crash test the battery has to be very well protected. That's partly to avoid any danger to the occupants, but also to protect the emergency services. And in a vehicle like this, even though this is only a prototype, we have already done crash testing to prove that the battery compartment is completely safe in a frontal crash, a side crash, or even a rear end crash of the vehicle. That's done, as I say, partly to protect the occupants, but also to protect emergency services who might come to attend a problem. If the vehicle is on fire, for example, for some reason, they would need to be sure that they could tackle the blaze without any danger to life and limb, and that's all done as part of our EV development. There's a further part to electrical safety which is interesting. Electric vehicles are very quiet, particularly at low speeds, and now there is legislation both in North America and in Europe to mandate that the vehicles have to make a certain level of noise at low speeds, around 20 kilometers an hour. That's particularly if you have partially sighted people in the environment who rely on seeing vehicles moving but hearing them, and if they can't hear this electric vehicle, they might step in front of a vehicle that's about to move off.
Well, it's time for us to take our final break here on Overdrive, but when we return, Jamshed's been put to a task that's a little beyond his KRA. You don't want to miss that. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back. You're watching Overdrive. Like any other sport, motorsport has its share of misconceptions. For those of you who are unfortunately not associated with the sport, you believe that getting onto a bike or into a car and driving around circles is all that it takes. But Jamshed tells you that it requires a lot more heart and a lot of endurance. Take a look.
Donovan McNabb, an NFL quarterback, said that Jimmy Johnson, who's a NASCAR Sprint Cup driver, was absolutely not an athlete. Now, this stirred quite a controversy. It kind of added fuel to the fire that's already been ignited. It's kind of like our sports minister, erstwhile sports minister, saying that Formula One wasn't a sport. Well, to bust this myth about fitness levels in motorsports, Volkswagen and British Nutritions has organized a driver's fitness camp for their Polo R Cup drivers to see whether the drivers are actually fit enough to be athletes. Well, I'm here at this camp and I'm going to be a part of it to see whether I, an auto journalist, is as fit as a race car driver. It's game on.
42, 43, yeah, 44, yes, 45.
Go down, go down. The time starts now. Time up to hold on.
Volkswagen has been conducting fitness camps for their Polo R Cup drivers since 2010, and each year they keep getting more and more comprehensive. This year they partnered with a specialist in health supplements, British Nutritions, which gave this endeavour a whole new dimension. British Nutritions also roped in their resident fitness expert Declan Leitao, who has trained various national and international athletes.
15. Declan, you've trained a lot of international and national level athletes. Let's put this controversy to rest first. Are motorsport drivers athletes, firstly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if you look at the way they train and the way their body goes through different kind of energy systems during a race, and the way their heart rate responds, they definitely are athletes like anyone. It's just that they sit, but their body goes through almost the same thing. They lose the same amount of water, probably even more. So definitely, without a doubt, some of the motorsport racers who are at the elite level are some of the fittest athletes as well in the world. So without a doubt, they are athletes.
Okay. In terms of training, how is their training different from other athletes?
Because they're sitting down and kind of not actual having any movement like on a court, on a field, one has to realize that their core has to be very, very strong. So it's like they're floating onto something for probably 20 minutes or so, and they have to have a super strong core, super strong cardiovascular system, and also the flexibility to last through that whole race without having to break something or their back or something goes off. So they need all these three, and then kind of get on and race.
Strength, and then is of course your skill. So you take for example, say badminton first. You have that. If Tendulkar had fitness today, there was no need for him to retire.
The two-day fitness camp began with a basic checkup for the drivers to determine their fundamental stats like their pulse rate and the BMI. Drivers would then undertake several long and demanding routines revolved around bettering physical fitness with respect to stamina and strength. Since race car drivers require special attention to motor sensory skills, they undertook several exercises to improve coordination as well. I was determined to at least keep up with the racers, having borne the responsibility of representing auto journalists. But these young racing aspirants really did give me a run for my money.
Come on! So, Declan, wait, let me catch my breath. So that was the end of a two-day workout for these drivers. How do you think they performed, and where do you think they stand in terms of where they should be?
Well, they have a long way to go, no doubt, because they're still not sort of elite athletes and they don't know what it takes physically. But I think this gives them a taste of at least the basics that they have to be able to fulfill. So I think they're okay, they've got the spirit, that's most important, but they definitely need to go a lot further down, like to really make it big. So on the right track, I'd say, all of them, yeah.
Okay. I'm still panting, so let me gather my breath. How do you think I performed? Do you think I can make it as an international motorsport athlete?
If you keep working out like this 3 times a week, then yes. So there's, of course, a lot of scope for improvement, but the most important thing is the motivation. Can you fight? And I keep telling people when they kind of do the routines, fight, because that's important. If your mind is ready, then you can push your body. Okay, so you have to get the mind ready, push your body, and make sure the two are always matching. So I'd say you did good and you matched, you lasted. In fact, you did more. Yeah, just to be on record, he did more time than the rest of the guys who were doing the planks and stuff. So in that sense, yeah, you did better. In fact, you passed, I would say, with much better marks.
Okay, well, you heard that from the expert himself. And if you saw the past 2 days, what kind of workout it is, I think it puts this myth to rest that motorsports guys aren't athletes after all.
The involvement of British Nutritions also exposed the drivers to some very important information about nutrition and diets by some highly qualified experts. As it turns out, even to the benefit of my knowledge, a big part of fitness begins with the diet, and British Nutrition seem to have a supplement for each need.
Well, I've always said one of the main reasons I started this company was to make sure that the people who are our customers are fit and are getting the right kind of supplementation. This event is to do something exactly the same thing, but with racers. I've always been very passionate as far as racing goes, cars or bikes, and when Volkswagen Motorsport contacted me and we started talking, and I told them that there's something that we can offer to them, which was a 3-day camp, was full of fitness and nutrition and advice on how to get fit and how to be a better racer. And that's where all of this started from.
Try to rehearse all
The drivers also got a chance to interact with some international athletes like Olympic swimmer Sandeep Sejwal and international motorcycle racer and the only Indian to race in Moto3, Sarath Kumar.
like to make one target.
This fitness camp wasn't a one-off, and Volkswagen intend to have more fitness camps mid-season to ensure that the drivers are fit throughout the season. Most of these drivers are starting their motorsport careers with the Polo R Cup.
It's just like a race. You're tired, but do you still fight or do you give up?
Making fitness an integral part of the Polo R Cup experience also ensures that they are conditioned in the right manner from the very beginning.
The importance that people have or give fitness in terms of motorsport, it's as important as any other sport. And this is something that I hope after these 2 days, all of our drivers realize, because they need to maintain this fitness level so that when they're in a car with 50+ degree temperatures and they have to concentrate for 40 minutes or 20 minutes at a stretch, and not lose focus for a millisecond, you need to have that fitness level as the foundation on which you can build.
Well, if Mr. McNabb was watching this, he'd be eating his words. Kudos to Volkswagen and British Nutrition for getting some serious motorsport stuff going in India. That is a wrap on Overdrive for this week. As always, stay in touch with our team on Facebook and Twitter. Catch the highlights of our show on our YouTube channel. Till next week, from all of us here, goodbye, thanks for watching, stay safe and drive smart.